What did that kid in your school get expelled for? He drew over 1,000 pictures of dicks each on a separate sheet of paper, and then proceeded to skip down the hallway during class and toss them all over the school. When he was brought into the office, they showed him a picture of him doing it. He asked the principal if he could keep the picture as a memory. Went to kindergarten with a kid named Marshall who was always getting in trouble, until one day they finally just kicked him out of school for spraying a fire extinguisher all over the room and somehow getting his own human shit in no fewer than 9 cubby holes where we kept our lunches. You have to be a goddamn rock star to get kicked out of kindergarten. I went to school with a kid named Marshall, too. He was a new student and came in 4th grade. One day he refused to get on the school bus. He was just standing in front of the door to the bus holding his arms out so they couldn't put him on the bus. It took the principal, 2 teachers, and the bus driver to pry his hands off the bus. They took him kicking and screaming into the office and he never came back to school. I saw him years later. He grew up to be as strange as I'd imagined he would be. This is so bizarre. Kid named Marshall got expelled at my high school too. They caught him doing circles in the parking lot screaming, "I don't give a fuck," with the windows down and the system up. Okay, so we were in the middle of class that took place on the 5th floor of our school, and there was this kid who in the middle of class stands up, goes to the window, proceeds to open it, and jumps off. The entire class watched his terror, and the teacher just stood there for a second in disbelief of what she had just witnessed. In reality, the kid jumped on a ledge under the window as some sick prank to scare us. He got expelled in the following week, and we had to list it to our counselor for a week about why stuff like this isn't funny. This was not the only reason he got expelled. This was just the final straw that forced the school to expel him. He was known for fooling around a lot and pranking the teachers all the time and doing dangerous stuff like starting fire in the middle of the class and similar. One of my first years teaching, I was 23 at the time, I had a student with an extreme case of ADHD. Sometimes, when he was being too disruptive, I'd tell him to go outside and take a walk. These were 16-year-old teens, by the way. Normally, this did the trick and he'd come back a little calmer. However, one day after the kid had been gone for about 10 minutes, the class burst out in gasps and laughter. I directed my attention to the window, where I noticed Nacho slowly walking past, casually smiling and waving to everyone. Our classroom was located on the 2nd floor. He was walking along the ledge outside the window. I demanded that he come back to class immediately. After asking him how he even got up there, he pointed out where he was able to climb up. I'm surprised I didn't get fired for that, as he apparently walked past one other classroom and was seen by the other teacher. Luckily, I never got reprimanded for it, and Nacho was no longer allowed to take walks during class. A guy at my secondary school, rural Scotland, built a homemade pipe bomb and brought it in to show his science teacher. School was evacuated and a bomb squad from Edinburgh had to be called out. When I was a junior in high school, the senior prank that year was to steal all the science videos from the office, all VHS, and record NORP onto them at various parts, then return the tapes. For years, teachers would be putting on tapes about fossil fuels or mitochondria or crepuscular carnivores, and 20 minutes in boom NORP at full volume. Science department finally gave up trying to find them all, and just threw them all away. The year of the prank, the student who organized it was expelled because someone spilled the beans. She pinned a girl against a wall and stared at her crotch saying, "Dinner time," or "I'm hungry," something along those lines. She was just really weird, and I do legitimately think she was mentally ill. There was a kid in the school who was notorious for not showering. It was absolutely disgusting, but he didn't exactly have the best home life, so no one was really gonna say anything. One day, the kid sitting behind him decided to light the no-shower's greasy hair on fire. It went up like a fireball, and the smell that ensued would make an onion cry. Needless to say, the kid with the lighter didn't make it through the rest of the day. You make it sound like he was murdered. We thought he was. When I say it was a fireball, it was a literal ball of hair grease fire that smelled like you can imagine it would. It looked like he was napalmed. It was only ablaze for a few seconds. He came back to school the next day completely bald. Went to an all-guys Catholic high school. One of the teachers was trying to become a deacon or something and had to videotape himself hosting a service. He taught religion, so he used a class period to take his students to the chapel and record his service. He had to go back to the classroom for something, and one of the kids got up and began desecrating everything. Mock blow jobs of the candles, humping the crucifix, fake sermons, the whole 9 yards. The kid returns to his seat before the teacher ever gets back, and all the students don't say anything. The camera was rolling the whole time. We had one kid get expelled for punching the vice principal in the face. The vice principal later got fired for sexually harassing the female students. Face puncher was and still remains a hero. He threw a hammer at a student, narrowly missing another student and lodging it in the wall. They'd been tossing plastic cutlery at him, and he'd had enough. Honestly, they were poking a sleeping bear because he'd made it clear from the day he arrived that he had some sort of mental condition. People at my school were very, very dumb. But he got expelled immediately. Recording himself jerking off and leaving the VHS tape in the AV room. This is a weird one. Preface this by saying this kid was on borrowed time. He had a history of being a jackass but was a really funny kid. So it's early junior year, and it's lunchtime. 2 people jokingly said to Kevin that they would pay him $60 to piss his pants. Money talks, and he stood up from his seat, and within moments pissed his pants. They recorded the event, and the video was passed around the school. Maybe a day or 2 later he was called down to the office and was promptly expelled for whatever reason. The kicker here is that the 2 kids never paid up their money, until the disciplinarian forced them to pay Kevin instead of detention. What? He got expelled cause he pissed himself? It all depends on areas. Upper-class schools punish kids for giving in to bets. Lower-class ones punish for taking advantage of poor kids. High school, senior year. He was the stereotypical computer geek pocket protector kid. Very smart, generally quiet, was nice but awkward. He somehow found a way to access the part of the school's storage network where teachers could save their files. He made copies of thousands of quizzes, tests, answer keys, etc. Lots were from his AP US history teacher, but I was told he had stuff from most teachers. He sold copies of answer keys and exams to kids. Eventually someone told the school administrators. They contacted the police, and while he was at school one day they went to his house with a warrant and confiscated his computers. Arrested him when he came home. Teachers were pissed. Every compromise test had to be remade. Hundreds of hours of work for his history teacher, who had to remake all his lesson materials for the year over again. They threatened him with the possibility of being prosecuted as an adult, that each file was its own felony, and he was looking at 1,000s of charges. This was ultimately to just get a plea deal, which was something like a lot of community service, expulsion from that school, and probation. I think if he made it through probation it would all end up sealed or something. It was the last week of 8th grade. This kid named Damien threw a carton of milk at a dean. The dean yelled, "Damien, you are expelled!" He ran off and I never saw him again. Pouring gasoline all over the locker room and setting it on fire. This kid wanted to drop out of school but his parents wouldn't let him. Told the principal that there was a gun in the bathroom, airsoft, and once he and principal and vice principal arrived at the bathroom and police were called, he told them that he brought the gun into school. Put a Nord VHS in class when he knew we were gonna be having a chill day. Hid the remote in his pants. So the teacher was kind of freaking out. Don't know why the teacher didn't think of unplugging the TV. He then turned off the lights and threw a desk at the teacher. There was a super senior at my high school. Each super indicates the extra year you stay at high school, so this dude was already in his 6th year of high school. I was a freshman when I met him. I was a junior at this time I'm referencing. He brings a shuriken during lunch. He demonstrates how he was learning how to throw one. He throws it at a wall, and it just bounces off and lands at a different lunch table. Fortunately, no one was harmed. Unfortunately for that dude, the people at the table got very upset and yelled loud enough to get the school's security guards' attentions. Yes, we had school security guards. The next week, I hear he got expelled. I would see him again as a super senior during my senior year. The worst part is, I don't remember seeing him during graduation. I can't imagine why he didn't just drop out after his super senior year. He shouted, "Get your tits out!" at the Queen of England as she drove past in a procession that our school were watching. A kid in my high school brought an airsoft gun in his truck on the one day of the year that my school decided to perform a modified lockdown, which is really just a different way of saying, "We're searching your shit for drugs." So he gets called outside to unlock his car so that the police can further analyze this obviously fake, see-through plastic toy gun. And what do? "Payday, fellas! We got exactly what we were looking for!" Poor kid got expelled. I will never forget sitting in chemistry with the windows open at the front of the school when he drove by in his truck screaming, "FUCK high school's name!" That's so dumb. Poor guy didn't even bring it inside. Who cares if it's on school property? I'd understand if it was black and had the orange tip removed, but nope. Yeah, he was pissed. Our school had almost no drug use and mostly complacent kids, so I guess they just felt they needed to justify putting us on lockdown to look for illegal stuff. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.